Okay, what we're going to be covering in this video is how you can go ahead and use the TK intermodule in Python to first, we're going to create a GUI with radio buttons, widgets, and then we're going to create a GUI with check button widgets. So in this first program, we're going to create a GUI with radio buttons. There'll be three radio buttons in the top frame, and in the bottom frame, we'll have the OK and the quit button. So let's go ahead and look at the code. So first thing, we import our TK inter module, and then what we're going to be displaying the choice that the user selected radio button in a message box, so we need to import that. Then we'll create our myGUI class, define our init function. So we're going to create our main window, first line of code. Then we're going to create two frames, one for the radio buttons and another for the regular button widgets. They'll be called top frame and bottom frame, and they'll be displayed within our main window. So next we need to do is create an infar object to use and associate with all of the radio buttons widgets that we're going to create. So the name of that infar object will be radio_var. And then this next line of code, what we're doing is we're setting option 1 as the option as that radio button as being selected. So if we specified a set of 0, no radio buttons would be selected. If we specified a set 2, the second radio button would be selected, and if we specified 3, the third radio button would be selected when the GUI initially appears. So that is one way that we can go ahead and use our infar to go ahead and set a default. Next, we're going to create the three radio button widgets in the top frame. The text form will just be option 1, option 2, and option 3. They're going to be using the same radiovar object, and then the values are going to be 1 for our first one, 2 for our second one, and 3 for our third one. So when the user selects option 1, the value in our radiovar variable will get set to 1. If they select the second one, it'll get set to 2. And if they select the third one, that value will get set to 3. Then we'll pack our radio buttons without any padding. And then next we need to do is create our OK and quit buttons. In our bottom frame, the text on our OK is OK. The text on our quit is quit. And then our callback function for the OK button is show choice, so we'll go ahead and call that function. And then for our quit button, it will be destroy. So what we're going to do next, we're going to pack the buttons and then pack the frames. Again, we're going to specify the option of left, so the buttons will be side by side without any padding between them. And then all we're doing in our show choice function is we'll go ahead and call our show info method, and we're going to pass in the title of that's going to show in our message box, which is selection, and then the information that will get displayed within it, you selected option, and then we're going to go ahead and call the get function to get whatever value is currently stored in our radio var, and then we're going to basically convert it to a string and display that value. And then finally, we need to create an instance of our myGUI class. Once we create an instance of that class, our GUI will initially appear with the radio buttons. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead in the command line. I already brought the command line up, so I will just go ahead and run our radio button. It comes up with option 1 as the default. I'll click on OK. You selected option 1. I'll select option 2. You selected option 2. And then finally, I'll select option 3. and it displays you select option 3, and then I'll go ahead and quit it. So as you can tell, with radio buttons, you can only select one of the 3 options. So I will go ahead and quit the program, and then what we want to do next is we want to go ahead and look at a program where we're going to demonstrate check button widgets. So the check buttons appear as check boxes with the option text to the right of them. So we're going to have a frame that includes our check buttons, and then a button for OK and a button for quit. So again, we need to do our imports. We're going to display what check buttons in a message box. We have our init, we create our main window, we create our top and bottom frames, which will just be displayed in our main window. Then we're going to create 3 separate infar objects to use with the check button. So var1 will be associated with check button 1, var2 with check button 2, and var3 with check button 3. And then the difference between radio buttons using the infar and check buttons using the infar, if you set it to 0, that means that the check button has not been selected. So if it's set to 0, it means it has not been selected, and if it has been set to 1, then it has been selected. So we're going to set them so none of the check buttons are initially selected when the program or when the GUI first appears. So again, we're going to go ahead and create in top frame our option 1, and then we're going to associate the variable with it, our infar variable. Option 2 will be in the top frame associated with infar var3 or 2, and then option 3 will be associated with our infar 3. And then we'll go ahead and pack the check buttons. Again, we don't have any padding specified as an option. Then we'll create our OK button and quit buttons. Again, they're the same as with our radio buttons, and we're going to have a show choice as our callback function, and then destroy for our quit button. We'll pack the buttons again so they appear next to each other without any padding. We'll pack the frames, and we'll start our main loop. So our callback function, we're going to create a message string called self.message you selected, and then we're going on a new line, we're going to go ahead and specify if our get for var1 equals 1, then we'll add that to our message. If get for var2 equals 1, we'll add that to our message. And if get var3 equals to 1, then we're going to go ahead and display 3, and they'll all be displayed vertically, the selection within that message box. And then our message box title will be selection, and what will be displayed is our self.message, which we've created up above. And then finally, again, like with all other GUI programs in Python, we're going to go ahead and create an instance of my GUI class, which will, once that code runs, our GUI will appear. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and run this from the command line again. So instead of radio button demo, it'll be our check button demo. And I will go ahead and call it. So if I go ahead, I can select option 1, option 2, option 3, click on OK. All 3 have been selected. If I deselect them, option 1 was selected. Select that, 1 and 3. Select that, deselect that. It's 1 and 2. And then deselect option 1 and select option 3, and it'll show 2 and 3. So I hope this helps you. kind of shows you how you can go ahead and use Python to create both radio buttons and check buttons and the difference between radio buttons and check buttons. So that's all I had for this video, so we will talk to you later.